I can't keep lying to myself. I'm in love with him, and it's destroying me. He's a criminal, a killer, but when he looks at me, God help me, I see myself staying. The phone line crackled with silence. Jenny's heart stopped beating. Her friends froze mid-laugh, wine glasses suspended in air like time itself had paused. Because that voice, low, dangerous, unmistakably his, just shattered everything. Jenny, I'm still here. 3 words. That's all it took to destroy the careful walls she'd built over 3 years. 3 words from Park Jae-hyun, Seoul's most feared mafia boss, the man she'd just confessed loving to her friends. The man who wasn't supposed to hear any of it. And now he knew. Her friends stared at her with wide eyes. Maya's hand covered her mouth. Chioma had gone completely still, lawyer brain probably calculating all the ways this could go wrong. Haewon looked terrified, like she was witnessing a car crash in slow motion. The apartment felt too small suddenly. Too hot. Jenny couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the roaring in her ears and the memory of her own voice, raw and desperate, confessing everything she'd sworn to keep buried. He'd heard it all. Every word. Every confession. Every weakness she'd just exposed. The call disconnected. Dead air filled her apartment. And Jenny knew nothing would ever be the same again. Welcome to Afro-Korean Love Stories. If you're loving this story as much as I do, then hit that like button and subscribe. Let's see what happens next with Jenny. Would she get fired, or even worse, eliminated? Or would this story take an unexpected turn? Stick around to find out more. Also, let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. I'm curious to know. Now, let's dive into it. 3 years earlier, Jennifer Lawrence had no idea her life was about to change forever. She stepped off the plane at Incheon International Airport with 2 suitcases, a finance degree from Howard University, and dreams of making it big in Asia's financial hub. Seoul sparkled beneath her like a promise. The job offer from Biko Financial Group seemed perfect. Too perfect, maybe. But Jenny was hungry, ambitious, ready to prove herself in a city that didn't look like her, didn't sound like her, didn't know what to do with a beautiful black woman who spoke numbers like poetry. Her first month passed in a blur of spreadsheets and subway rides. She found an apartment in Itaewon, started learning basic Korean, made friends with other expats at language exchanges. Normal stuff. Corporate stuff. Then came the audit. Jenny remembered that Tuesday morning clearly. Her supervisor assigned her to review Q3 financials for their real estate division. Simple task. Routine. Except the numbers didn't add up. Properties purchased for amounts that didn't match market value. Shell companies layered so deep they disappeared into nothing. Money moving in patterns that screamed one thing: laundering. She should have ignored it, filed the report with diplomatic language, and moved on. But Jenny wasn't built that way. She spent 2 weeks tracing every transaction, building an airtight case. When she submitted her findings, her supervisor's face went pale. He told her to delete everything. Forget what she'd seen. Take a bonus and stay quiet. Jenny refused. 2 days later, she got summoned to the penthouse office. The one everyone whispered about but nobody visited. The one belonging to the company's real owner, Park Jae-hyun. She'd never seen him before. Didn't know what to expect. Maybe some old corporate shark in a cheap suit, barking orders and making threats. What she got instead stole her breath. He stood by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Gangnam, silhouetted against Seoul's skyline like some kind of dark prince. When he turned, Jenny's professional composure cracked. Sharp jawline, perfectly styled black hair, eyes that looked right through her soul. Designer suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. Young, couldn't be older than 35. Devastatingly handsome in a way that felt dangerous. Miss Lawrence. His English was flawless, accent barely there. You've been busy. Jenny lifted her chin, refused to show fear. Just doing my job. Your job is to analyze numbers, not destroy careers. He moved closer, each step deliberate. Predatory. Do you know what you've uncovered? Money laundering. Fraud. Criminal enterprise. She held his gaze. Should I continue? Something flickered in his expression. Amusement, maybe. Or respect. You're either very brave or very stupid. I'm thorough. Jae-hyun stopped 3 feet away. Close enough she could smell his cologne, expensive, intoxicating. I could make you disappear. Nobody would ask questions. Nobody would find you. Then why am I still here? He smiled, actually smiled. And somehow that was more terrifying than any threat. Because I'm going to offer you a choice, Miss Lawrence. You can walk away right now. I'll arrange a generous severance package, excellent references, and you'll never hear from me again. Or, you work for me, directly. Use that brilliant mind to manage my actual business interests. Clean money, move assets, make everything look legitimate. You'll be compensated beyond anything your corporate career could offer. He paused. And you'll stay alive. Jenny's mind raced. This was insane. Working for a criminal. Becoming complicit in whatever empire he'd built. Everything she believed in screamed no. But she'd seen too much. If she walked away, would he really let her go? Could she spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, wondering when his people would come? What guarantee do I have you won't kill me anyway? My word. Jae-hyun's expression turned serious. I don't harm people who are useful to me. And Miss Lawrence, you're about to become very useful. She took the job. What choice did she have? The first 6 months were hell. Jenny learned the real structure of Jae-hyun's empire. The legitimate businesses funding underground operations, protection rackets, smuggling, gambling. Violence wrapped in expensive suits and corporate paperwork. She created shell companies, moved money through international accounts, made dirty cash look clean. Every day she hated herself a little more. But something else happened too. Something she didn't expect. Jae-hyun started requesting her presence at meetings she didn't need to attend. Asked her opinion on decisions beyond her job description. Their weekly financial reviews stretched from 30 minutes to 2 hours, conversations drifting from spreadsheets to philosophy, art, literature. He was educated, well-read, quoted everyone from Confucius to Maya Angelou, collected contemporary art, spoke 4 languages fluently. Nothing like the monster she'd imagined. You're surprised, he said one evening, catching her staring at a Basquiat hanging in his office. I didn't expect a crime boss to appreciate art. Why? Because violence and beauty can't coexist. Jae-hyun gestured to the painting. My father built this organization with his fists, beat respect into people. I prefer more elegant methods. Murder is still murder, Mr. Park. Jae-hyun, we're past formalities, don't you think? He returned to reviewing her reports. And yes, I've done terrible things. We'll continue doing them. But that doesn't mean I can't recognize beauty when I see it. The way he said that last part made heat crawl up Jenny's neck. She changed the subject quickly. But that night, lying in bed, she couldn't stop replaying his words. A week later, a package arrived at her apartment. No note, just a coffee table book on Basquiat's work, first edition, probably worth thousands. Jenny stared at it for an hour before texting. Thank you for the book. His response came immediately. You're interested. Seemed wasteful not to share. Professional. Distant. Yet he'd remembered a casual glance at a painting weeks ago. The gifts became a pattern. Always work-related. Always with plausible professional justification. A vintage fountain pen after she'd mentioned preferring handwritten notes. A book on behavioral economics she'd referenced in a meeting. An original print of Seoul's skyline from the 1960s after she'd expressed interest in the city's history. Nothing romantic. Nothing that crossed lines. Just thoughtful. Your boss sent you another gift? Maya asked during one of their monthly gatherings, eyeing the economics book on Jenny's coffee table. It's work-related. Right. Because bosses always send employees $1,000 books. He appreciates when people show genuine interest in things. Or he's interested in you, and this is how he shows it. Jenny's heart raced at the possibility. It's not like that. Then what is it like? She didn't have an answer. Months became a year. Their Thursday evening meetings remained the highlight of Jenny's week. Just the two of them after everyone left. Going over reports that could have been handled via email. Discussing business that somehow always drifted into personal territory. Tell me something true, Jae-hyun said one evening, pouring whiskey. Like what? Anything. Something nobody else knows. So Jenny told him about growing up in Atlanta. Her mother's disappointment when she chose finance over medicine. The ex-boyfriend who'd said she was too ambitious, Too independent, too much. Jae-hyun listened without interruption. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. He was intimidated, he finally said. Men like that fear women who outshine them. His gaze held hers. You're brilliant, Jenny. Anyone who can't handle that doesn't deserve you. Her breath caught. Nobody had ever said anything like that to her. Your turn, she managed. Tell me something true. But Jae-hyun just smiled slightly. Another time. It's late. You should go. Always pulling back. Always maintaining distance. Giving just enough to keep her hoping, never enough to confirm anything. 2 years in, Jenny stopped pretending this was just a job. She'd catch herself thinking about him constantly. The way his jaw tightened when concentrating. How he unconsciously rolled his shirt sleeves when working late. That rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. She was falling. Had already fallen. Was drowning in feelings for a man who probably saw her as nothing more than a competent employee. Her monthly girls' nights became therapy sessions. You're pining after someone who doesn't even know you exist that way, Maya said gently. He knows I exist. As an employee, not as a woman. The words stung because they were probably true. Everything began with the choice Jenny made. She could have taken Jae-hyun's severance offer and walked away clean. Instead, she stayed. She accepted the job, stepped into his dangerous world, and now she's falling for a man who might never love her back. Do you think that was her best choice? Or do you support her decision and want to see where this leads? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe because this story is far from over. Jenny arrived home to find Maya and Haewon already waiting in her apartment lobby. Their monthly ritual had become sacred over the past 2 years. First Thursday of every month, wine and brutal honesty, no matter how busy life got. You're late, Maya said, but she was smiling. Traffic in Gangnam was insane. Jenny unlocked her door, ushering them inside. Plus my meeting ran over. Let me guess. Haewon called from the kitchen, already pulling out glasses. Your boss needed extra time to stare at you while pretending to discuss quarterly reports. Jenny's cheeks heated. We were actually working. Sure you were. They settled into their usual spots, Jenny in the armchair, Maya and Haewon sharing the couch. Soju and wine appeared like magic. Fried chicken from the place downstairs that knew their order by heart. So, Maya started because she always started. Scale of 1 to 10. How obsessed are you with Park Jae-hyun this month? Can we not do this tonight? That's an 11. Haewon poured generous shots. Definitely an 11. Jenny sighed. These monthly sessions had evolved from casual hangouts to interventions disguised as girl talk. Every month, the same questions, the same concerns, the same warnings she never quite heeded. I'm fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. You said fine 3 times, Maya observed. That means nothing is fine. Jenny grabbed her glass, down the soju in one shot. Why does it have to be complicated? Why can't I just feel what I feel without analyzing it to death? Because what you feel is dangerous, Haewon said gently. And we love you too much to watch you destroy yourself. I'm not destroying myself. Aren't you? Maya leaned forward. You've been working for a criminal organization for almost 3 years now. You've moved money for illegal operations. You've become complicit in things that go against everything you believed in. And for what? A man who doesn't even know how you feel. The words stung because they were true. It's not like that, Jenny protested weakly. Then what is it like? Because from where I'm sitting, you're pining after someone who sees you as an employee. A useful asset. Nothing more. That's not fair. Jenny stopped herself. What could she say? That Jae-hyun looked at her sometimes like she was the only person in the room? That his hand lingered when passing her documents? That she'd caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read? Those weren't facts. Just wishful thinking. What? Maya pressed. Nothing. Never mind. Haewon moved to sit on the arm of Jenny's chair. Sweetie, we're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to protect you. This man is dangerous. Even if he did have feelings for you, which we have zero evidence of, what kind of life could you have with him? I'm not asking for a life with him. I'm just trying to survive working for him. Are you, though? Maya's voice softened. Because it seems like you're doing a lot more than surviving. You're hoping, waiting for something that might never happen. Silence fell heavy between them. Jenny knew they were right. She'd spent 2.5 years reading into every glance, every word, every moment of attention Jae-hyun gave her, building fantasies on foundations of nothing, falling in love with a man who probably saw her as nothing more than a competent employee. "What if I can't help it?" she whispered. "What if I've already fallen and there's no coming back?" Her friends exchanged worried glances. "Then you need to protect yourself," Haewon said firmly. "Guard your heart. Don't give him more power than he already has."
How?
"How do I stop feeling what I feel?" "You start by admitting it," Maya suggested. "Stop pretending this is just a job. Acknowledge that you have feelings and that those feelings are dangerous. Then you decide, do you stay in this situation hoping something changes, or do you save yourself?" Jenny didn't have an answer. They spent the next hour talking in circles, Jenny defending feelings she couldn't quite explain, her friends warning against disaster they could see coming. It was exhausting and necessary, and achingly familiar. Around 11, Maya and Haewon left, extracting promises that Jenny would think about what they'd said, would consider putting distance between herself and Jae-hyun, would remember her worth. Jenny promised, knowing she wouldn't follow through. The following weeks passed in painful awareness. Every interaction with Jae-hyun felt charged with meaning she probably imagined. Every meeting became torture, sitting across from him, watching his mouth form words, wondering what it would feel like to kiss him. She was losing her mind. Their weekly Thursday reports became the highlight and lowlight of her week. Just the two of them in his office after everyone left, going over numbers that barely registered because all Jenny could focus on was the way lamplight caught in his hair, the flex of his jaw when he concentrated, those rare moments when he'd look up and their eyes would meet and hold for a second too long. Was she imagining the tension? The electricity that seemed to crackle between them? Probably. Most likely. Almost definitely. But she couldn't stop hoping. "The Singapore accounts are ready," she reported one Thursday evening, sliding the folder across his desk. Jae-hyun reviewed the numbers with his usual precision. "Excellent work. As always." "Thank you." He looked up then, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "Jenny, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret it? Taking this job?" The question surprised her. "Sometimes. When I think about who I used to be." "And who are you?" "Someone with principles. Clear lines between right and wrong. Someone who believed good always won in the end." She laughed bitterly. "Naive, basically." "Not naive. Idealistic. There's a difference." Jae-hyun leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I sometimes wonder what you'd be doing if you'd never walked into that audit. If you'd never discovered my operations. Probably working some corporate job I hated, dating some boring guy who wanted me to be smaller." "You could never be small. You're too brilliant for that." Heat crept up Jenny's neck. She changed the subject quickly. "Is there anything else you need tonight?"
No.
"You should go.
Get some rest."
She gathered her things, acutely aware of his gaze following her movements. At the door, she paused. "Jae-hyun." "Yes. Why did you really hire me? You could have made me disappear. Eliminated the threat. Why give me a choice?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because eliminating you would have been a waste. And I don't waste valuable things. Valuable things. Not valuable people." The distinction hurt more than it should. "Good night, Mr. Park." "Jenny." His voice stopped her. "It's Jae-hyun. We're past formalities." She left before he could see the tears threatening to fall. November brought colder weather and deeper confusion. Jenny's feelings intensified despite her best efforts to suppress them. She found herself thinking about Jae-hyun constantly, during meetings on subway rides, while lying awake at 3 a.m. wondering if he ever thought about her the same way. Probably not. Almost certainly not. Definitely not. The monthly girls' nights became her only outlet. Maya and Haewon listened with increasing concern as Jenny described the torture of wanting someone who didn't want her back. "Have you considered just telling him?" Haewon asked during their November session. "Absolutely not." "Why not? At least then you'd know." "Because he's my boss. A crime lord. A man who could destroy me with one word." I can't just confess feelings he doesn't share. It would make everything awkward and impossible. Everything is already awkward and impossible, Maya pointed out. You're in love with someone you can't have. That's the definition of impossible. I never said I was in love with him. Both friends stared at her.
Fine.
Maybe I am. A little. Or a lot. I don't know. Jenny buried her face in her hands. This is a disaster. Then leave. Hae-won said simply.
Quit.
Find another job. Save yourself. I can't. I know too much. He'd never let me just walk away. So you're trapped. I'm trapped. The truth of that statement settled over them like snow. Heavy.
Cold.
Suffocating. Chioma texted earlier. Maya said, clearly trying to lighten the mood. She's definitely coming end of January. 2 weeks in Seoul. We're planning a proper girls' night. All 4 of us together. Jenny's spirits lifted slightly. Really? That'll be good. I miss her lawyer brain. She misses your chaos. Says her life in London is too boring without your drama. They laughed, but underneath ran currents of worry. The unspoken fear that Jenny was drowning and nobody knew how to save her. December arrived with the first real snow. Seoul transformed into something magical. White and pristine and beautiful. Jenny watched it fall from her office window, thinking about how nothing stayed pure for long. Eventually, the snow would turn gray with city dirt, melt into slush, disappear completely, kind of like her integrity. Her Thursday report that week felt different.
Tense.
Jae-hyun seemed distracted, answering emails while she presented numbers. Is everything all right? She asked finally. He looked up, and for a moment, she saw something in his expression. Exhaustion.
Stress.
Vulnerability he usually kept hidden. Rival organization is pushing into our territory. It's being handled, but it's complicated. Dangerous? Everything I do is dangerous. He stood, moved to the windows. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like. Different life. Different choices. Different, he stopped himself. Different what? Nothing. Forget I said anything. But Jenny couldn't forget. That moment of almost confession hung between them like unspoken truth. She wanted to go to him, close the distance, tell him she understood, that she felt the same impossibility of their situation, that she'd choose him anyway, danger and all, if he'd just ask. Instead, she stayed frozen in her chair. I should go, she said quietly.
Yes.
You should. Neither of them moved. Finally, Jae-hyun turned back to his desk. Professional. Distant. The vulnerable moment locked away like it never happened. Same time next week? He asked, not meeting her eyes. Same time. Jenny left feeling hollowed out. Exhausted from wanting. Tired of hiding. Desperate for something to change. January brought bitter cold and a text from Maya. Chioma arrives next Thursday. Girls' night at your place. Be ready for an intervention. Jenny smiled despite herself. Having all 4 of them together would be good. She needed Chioma's no-nonsense perspective. Her ability to cut through emotional fog and see situations clearly. Maybe Chioma could tell her how to stop loving someone who'd never love her back. The week crawled by. Work consumed her, preparing quarterly reports, managing new accounts, attending endless meetings where Jae-hyun's presence made her skin electric with awareness he probably didn't share. Thursday arrived. Thursday evening arrived with nervous energy crackling through Jenny's apartment. This wasn't their usual monthly gathering. This was special. Chioma was finally here. 2 weeks of vacation from her London law firm, and she'd chosen to spend it in Seoul with her girls. Jenny had left work early to prepare. Ordered extra food, stocked up on wine and soju, made sure her apartment was presentable. The butterflies in her stomach weren't just about seeing her friend. They were about the inevitable conversation that would happen. All 4 of them together meant no escape. No deflecting. No hiding behind excuses. Around 6 p.m., her doorbell rang. Chioma stood there with her suitcase and the biggest smile. Surprise. Couldn't wait until 7. Jenny pulled her into a fierce hug. I missed you so much. Missed you too, babe. Now, let me in before I freeze to death. How is Seoul colder than London? That doesn't seem right. They settled into comfortable conversation, catching up on Chioma's life in London, the cases she was working, the terrible dating scene, everything and nothing. Maya and Haewon arrived together around 6:30, arms loaded with food and drinks. The gang's all here, Maya announced, dumping bags on the kitchen counter. Chioma, you look amazing. London agrees with you. London is dreary and wet, but the paycheck is nice. Chioma helped unpack containers of Korean fried chicken, tteokbokki, and various other dishes. I've been dreaming about this food for months. They fell into easy rhythm, the kind that only happens with people who've known each other through everything. Laughter filled the apartment. Stories flowed as freely as the drinks. For an hour, Jenny let herself just be present. Just enjoy having her people together. But around 7:30, her phone rang. Jaehyun's name flashed across the screen. The room's energy shifted immediately. All three friends noticed, watched Jenny's face transform, soften, brighten, become more alive. It's your weekly call, isn't it? Chioma said, voice knowing.
Yes.
I should take this. It'll just be a few minutes. Jenny stood, moving toward her bedroom for privacy, then stopped. These were her friends. She didn't need to hide. Actually, I'll take it here. Just give me a second. She answered, trying to keep her voice professional despite her racing heart. Hello. Jenny. Jaehyun's voice rumbled through the line, sending familiar shivers down her spine. I hope I'm not interrupting your evening. No, it's fine. My friends are here, but we haven't really started yet. Good. I wanted to go over the quarterly reports before the week ends. Do you have the numbers in front of you? Not physically, but I remember them. Singapore accounts.
Yes.
The projections you sent look strong, but I want to confirm the timeline for the next phase. They fell into familiar rhythm, discussing accounts, reviewing strategies, falling into the professional dance they'd perfected over 3 years. Jenny was aware of her friends watching, listening to her half of the conversation, probably judging how her entire demeanor changed when talking to him. She couldn't help it. Her voice softened. Her body relaxed. Just hearing him made everything else fade into background noise. The Taiwan preliminaries should be ready by next week, she said. I'll have concrete projections by Friday. Excellent. That gives us time to review before I travel to Singapore. When do you leave? Monday morning. I'll be gone for a week, possibly longer depending on how negotiations go. A whole week without seeing him. The thought made her chest ache in ways it shouldn't. Will you need anything else before you go? Just the documentation we discussed. We can finalize everything tomorrow if you're available. Tomorrow's Friday. I have the morning free. Perfect. 9 a.m. I'll be there. There was a pause. Static crackled faintly on the line. Jenny thought she heard voices in the background, probably his security team or other organization members. Jenny, he stopped himself. Thank you. For always being prepared. For making my work easier. Her heart squeezed. Just doing my job. You do more than your job. You know that. The way he said it, soft, almost intimate, made heat crawl up her neck. She was hyper-aware of her friends watching, listening, probably reading into every word. I appreciate that, she managed. Another pause. Longer this time. Enjoy your evening with your friends, Jaehyun said finally. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Good night, Jaehyun. Good night, Jenny. She pulled the phone away from her ear, ready to end the call. Her thumb moved toward the red button, pressed down. The screen went dark. Call ended. Or so she thought. Jenny set her phone on the coffee table, face down, and looked up at her friends. All three were staring at her with knowing expressions. What? She asked defensively. Was that him? Haewon asked, though they all knew the answer. Yes. And you're seeing him tomorrow morning? Maya's eyebrow arched. For work. To finalize documentation before he travels.
Right.
Just work. Chioma's lawyer voice came out, sharp with skepticism. Jenny, your entire face changes when you talk to him. Your voice gets softer. You smile without realizing it. That's not just work behavior. I'm professional with him. You're in love with him, Maya said bluntly. And, honestly, watching you pretend otherwise is exhausting. Jenny's defenses crumbled. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was having all her friends together. Maybe she was just tired of lying. So, what if I am? She whispered. What difference does it make? It makes all the difference. Chioma said gently. Because you're destroying yourself over feelings he might not even know exist. When does this end? I don't know. That's not good enough. You've spent 3 years pining after a man who sees you as an employee, a useful asset. When do you choose yourself? Tears pricked Jenny's eyes. You think I haven't tried? You think I haven't spent every day trying to stop feeling this way? I can't just turn it off. Then tell him, Haewon urged. Actually speak the words. Let him know how you feel. At least then you'll have clarity instead of this endless limbo. I can't. What if it ruins everything? What if he fires me? Or worse? Worse what? He already has all the power. You're already trapped. How much worse can it get? Jenny grabbed her wine glass, downed it in one long swallow. The alcohol burned, but didn't numb the ache in her chest. I'm terrified, she admitted. Of losing him. Of finding out he feels nothing. Of destroying the only connection I have to him. That's not connection, sweetie. That's dependency. Chioma leaned forward, voice soft but firm. You deserve someone who loves you back. Who chooses you. Not this impossible situation where you love him and he doesn't even know. But what if he does know? What if he feels it too, but can't act on it because of who he is, what he does? Then you're both trapped in feelings you'll never express, which is even sadder. Maya grabbed Jenny's hand. Listen to me. You are brilliant, beautiful, worthy of real love. Not scraps of attention from a man who calls you at night to discuss spreadsheets. It's not like that. Isn't it? Be honest. When was the last time he did anything that suggested he sees you as more than an employee? Jenny thought about tonight. The pause on the phone. The almost confession he'd swallowed. The way he'd said her name like it meant something. But those were maybes. Possibilities. Not certainties.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't give you anything concrete. Just enough attention to keep you hoping. To keep you loyal. That's manipulation, Jenny. Even if he doesn't mean it that way. The words cut deep because some part of her feared they were true. I can't help how I feel, Jenny said, voice breaking. I've tried. God knows I've tried. But I can't stop loving him. The room fell silent except for the soft music playing in the background. Then Jenny spoke again, voice raw with emotion she could no longer contain. I can't keep lying to myself. I'm in love with him, and it's destroying me. He's a criminal, a killer, but when he looks at me, God help me, I see myself staying. The confession hung in the air like smoke. Her friends stared at her with varying expressions of concern, sadness, and understanding. The phone line crackled with silence. Jenny's heart stopped beating. Her friends froze mid-breath, wine glasses suspended in air like time itself had paused. Because that sound, that unmistakable sound of an active call, shattered everything.
No. No, no, no.
She'd ended the call. She'd pressed the button. Seen the screen go dark. Hadn't she? With trembling hands, Jenny reached for her phone. Flipped it over. The screen lit up. Active call. Park Jae-hyun. Duration, 8 minutes, 47 seconds. The world tilted sideways. Oh my God, Maya breathed. Jenny. Haewon started. But before anyone could move, before Jenny could process what was happening, a voice came through the phone speaker.
Low.
Dangerous. Unmistakably his. Jenny, I'm still here. 3 words that destroyed everything. The call disconnected. Dead air filled her apartment. Jenny couldn't breathe.
Couldn't think.
Could only stare at her phone screen showing call ended, while her entire world collapsed around her. He'd heard everything. Every word. Every confession. Every desperate admission she'd sworn to keep buried. Park Jae-hyun, Seoul's most feared mafia boss, the man who held her life in his hands, the man she'd been in love with for 3 years, knew exactly how she felt. What just happened? Chioma's voice seemed to come from very far away. Jenny looked up at her friends with tears streaming down her face. He heard me. He heard everything I said. Oh, sweetie. Maya pulled her into a hug. But Jenny couldn't feel it. Couldn't feel anything except terror and humiliation and the devastating certainty that she'd just destroyed her entire life. What would he do now? Fire her? Eliminate her for becoming a liability? Use her feelings to manipulate her further? Or, and this possibility terrified her most, would he pretend it never happened? Continue treating her as just an employee, making her confession the elephant in every room they'd ever share? Her phone buzzed. A text message. From Jae-hyun. With shaking hands, Jenny opened it. We need to talk. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Don't be late. That was it. No acknowledgement of what he'd heard. No emotion. Just a command.
Cold.
Professional. Devastating. What did he say? Haewon asked gently. He wants to meet tomorrow morning. Jenny's voice sounded hollow. To talk. That's good, right? He wants to discuss it. Or, he wants to fire me in person. Or worse. Jenny stood abruptly, pacing her apartment like a caged animal. This is a disaster. This is everything I was afraid of. He knows now, and I can't take it back. Can't pretend it didn't happen. Jenny, breathe. Chioma grabbed her shoulders, forcing eye contact. Listen to me. Yes, this is terrifying. Yes, the situation is complicated. But maybe, just maybe, this is actually good. How is this good? Because you've been trapped in uncertainty for 3 years. Now you'll have answers. Tomorrow morning, you'll know for certain how he feels. One way or another, the limbo ends. What if the answer destroys me? Then we'll be here to pick up the pieces. But sweetie, you're already being destroyed. At least this way, you'll know the truth. Jenny collapsed onto her couch, emotionally exhausted. Her friends gathered around her. Maya holding her hand, Haewon rubbing her back, Chioma sitting close enough their shoulders touched. What do I do tomorrow? Jenny whispered. You walk in there with your head high, Maya said firmly. You own your feelings. You don't apologize for loving him. And you listen to what he has to say. And if he rejects me, then you survive it. The same way you've survived everything else. They stayed like that for hours, Jenny crying, her friends offering comfort and terrible jokes and unwavering support. Nobody mentioned leaving. Nobody suggested she was overreacting. They just held space for her fear and pain and desperate hope. Around midnight, Chioma spoke what they were all thinking. What if he feels the same way? Don't. Jenny shook her head. Don't give me hope. That's crueler than anything. I'm serious.
Think about it.
He calls you at night about work that could wait. He looks for excuses to keep you in meetings longer. He said you do more than your job. That's not boss language, Jenny. That's personal. Or I'm reading into nothing because I want it to be true. Maybe. Or maybe you've both been circling each other for 3 years, too afraid to make the first move. And now the move's been made. Tomorrow you'll know. Jenny wanted to believe that. Wanted to hope that the man she loved might love her back. But hope felt dangerous. Like setting herself up for even greater devastation. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Jae-hyun. Sleep well, Jenny. Just 3 words. But they made her cry harder. Because they were gentle. Almost tender. Not the words of a man preparing to fire someone. Or maybe she was fooling herself again. Reading emotion into simple courtesy. What did he say? Haewon asked. He told me to sleep well. Her friends exchanged glances loaded with meaning. That's actually sweet, Maya said carefully. It's polite. Jenny, bosses don't text employees at midnight telling them to sleep well. That's not professional. That's personal. Stop.
Please.
I can't handle hope right now. They respected her wishes, shifting conversation to lighter topics. But underneath ran currents of anticipation. Tomorrow morning would change everything. For better or worse, the waiting would finally end. Around 2 a.m., her friends started preparing to leave. Do you want us to stay? Chioma offered. We can camp out here. Be here when you get back from the meeting.
No.
I need to process this alone. But thank you. 3 fierce hugs later, Jenny was alone in her apartment. She tried to sleep but couldn't. Her mind spun endlessly through possibilities. What would Jae-hyun say tomorrow? How would he look at her? Would everything change, or would nothing change at all? At 4 a.m., she gave up and made coffee. Watched Seoul's lights slowly brighten as dawn approached. Prepared herself for a conversation that would either save her or destroy her. 9 a.m. couldn't come fast enough. And yet, she wished it would never arrive. What you would do in Jenny's position. Would you show up to that 9 a.m. meeting or run for your life? Drop a comment below, I'd really love to know, and if you're invested in Jenny and Jaehyun's story, hit that like button and subscribe. The confrontation is coming, and it's going to be intense. Jenny didn't sleep.
Couldn't.
She watched the sun rise over Seoul, coffee growing cold in her hands, mind replaying that moment over and over. Jenny, I'm still here. 3 words that had shattered her carefully constructed world. At 7 a.m., she showered, put on her most professional outfit, black slacks, silk blouse, blazer that made her feel armored, applied makeup with shaking hands, covering the evidence of a sleepless night, straightened her hair, checked her reflection. She looked composed, professional, nothing like the terrified woman dying inside. The commute to Biko Group felt surreal. Seoul moved around her, people rushing to work, street vendors setting up, the city waking to another ordinary Friday. But nothing felt ordinary. Everything had changed. She arrived at 8:45. Too early, but waiting at home had become unbearable. The executive floor was quiet. Most people wouldn't arrive for another hour. Jenny stood outside Jaehyun's office, gathering courage she wasn't sure she possessed. At exactly 9 a.m., she knocked. Come in. His voice sent electricity through her spine. The same voice that had said her name last night. The same voice that had heard her desperate confession. Jenny opened the door. Jaehyun stood by the windows, backlit by morning sun. He discarded his jacket, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. The same position she'd seen 100 times before. But everything felt different now. Close the door, he said without turning around.
She did.
The click echoed like a gunshot. Silence stretched between them. Jenny's heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Finally, Jaehyun turned. His expression was unreadable, not angry, not cold, just intense. Those dark eyes studied her face like he was seeing her for the first time. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I'd rather stand. Jenny, sit. The command in his voice made her knees weak. She sat. Jaehyun moved to his desk but didn't sit. Instead, he leaned against it, arms crossed, studying her with an intensity that made her want to disappear. I didn't mean for you to hear that, Jenny said, breaking the silence. Her voice came out stronger than she felt. Last night, I thought I'd ended the call. I know. I would never have said those things if I'd known you were listening. I know that too. He tilted his head slightly. But you did say them. And I did hear them. So now we're here. I understand if you want me to resign. I'll submit my resignation today, help transition my accounts to someone else. Stop. The single word cut through her spiral. I don't want your resignation. Jenny's breath caught. You don't.
No.
Jaehyun pushed off the desk, started pacing. A rare tell that he was agitated. Do you have any idea what the last 12 hours have been like for me? Hearing you say those words. Knowing how you feel. Trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do without information. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. He stopped pacing, turned to face her directly. Don't apologize for feeling what you feel. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Jaehyun ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its usual perfect style. You said you're in love with me. That it's destroying you. That you see yourself staying despite knowing what I am. Yes. No point denying it now. Do you understand how dangerous that is? For you. For both of us. I know what you are. I've always known. Do you? He crossed her chair, crouched down so they were eye level. Close enough, she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. I've killed people, Jenny. Hurt people. Built an empire on violence and fear. I'm not some misunderstood hero. I'm exactly the monster everyone thinks I am. I know. Then why? His voice cracked slightly. Why would you love someone like me? Jenny's eyes filled with tears. Because underneath the monster, I see someone who quotes poetry, who visits his sister every Sunday, who treats me like I matter, who's gentle with me even when the world demands he be cruel. She swallowed hard. Because when you look at me, I feel seen, understood, valued. And I know that's probably manipulation, that you're probably using my feelings against me, but I don't care anymore. I love you anyway. Jae-hyun closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had shifted in his expression. Vulnerability she'd never seen before. "It's not manipulation," he said quietly. "It's never been manipulation." "What?" He stood, turned away, walked back to the windows. "I've been fighting this for 3 years. Telling myself it was inappropriate, impossible, dangerous. That keeping distance was protecting you. Protecting us both." Jenny's heart stopped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying..." He turned back, and the emotion in his eyes made her breath catch. "I'm saying you're not alone in this. You've never been alone in this." The world tilted sideways. You have feelings for me?" "Feelings?" Jae-hyun laughed bitterly. "That's such an inadequate word for what you do to me. You walk into a room, and everything else disappears. You smile, and I forget how to breathe. You challenge me, stand up to me, refuse to be intimidated, and it makes me want things I have no right wanting." Tears streamed down Jenny's face. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I'm a criminal, Jenny. My world is violence and darkness. You deserve better than what I can offer. Better than a life looking over your shoulder, wondering if my enemies will use you against me. Better than loving someone who might not survive the next gang war." "That's not your decision to make, isn't it? I have power, influence. I could ruin your life with one word. How is that fair? How can I ask you to love me when the power dynamic is so skewed?" Jenny stood, crossed to him. "You're not asking. I'm offering. Freely. With full knowledge of what you are and what loving you means. You could die because of me. I could die crossing the street. At least with you, I die having lived, having felt something real." Jae-hyun reached up, cupped her face with both hands. His touch was gentle, reverent, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "Probably not. But you have me anyway." He kissed her then, finally. After 3 years of tension and longing and desperate restraint. The kiss was everything, tender and desperate, claiming and surrendering. Jae-hyun kissed her like she was air and he was drowning. Like she was the answer to questions he'd been afraid to ask. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. "This doesn't solve anything," he said roughly. "My world is still dangerous. People will try to hurt you to get to me. There will be times I can't protect you. Times when loving me will feel like a curse." "I know. And you still want this? Want me? More than anything." Jae-hyun pulled back to look at her properly. "Then we do this carefully. Quietly. Nobody in the organization can know, not yet. It makes you a target. We keep things professional in public. But here in private," his thumb traced her lower lip. "In private, you're mine. And I'm yours. Completely. That's enough. More than enough." They spent the next hour talking. Really talking. Jae-hyun told her about the first moment he'd realized she was more than just an employee, 6 months into her employment, watching her tear apart a rival's financial strategy with ruthless precision. How he'd started finding excuses to keep her in meetings. The nights he'd driven to her apartment building just to make sure she got home safely, never approaching, just watching from a distance. Jenny confessed her own timeline. The exact moment she'd fallen, 14 months in, when he defended her to a senior member who'd questioned her methods. How she'd spent 2 years analyzing every glance, every word, trying to determine if he felt even a fraction of what she did. All that time wasted, Jae-hyun said, pulling her close. "We could have had this years ago. We weren't ready. I wasn't ready to accept what loving you meant. And now I don't care about the consequences. I just want you." He kissed her again, slower this time, taking his time exploring, claiming, making promises, without words. When his phone rang, a business call he couldn't ignore, reality crashed back in. "I still have to leave Monday," he said, checking the caller ID. "Singapore can't wait." "I know. Come with me." Jenny's eyes widened. "What?" "Come to Singapore. We'll handle business during the day, but the nights." His expression turned heated. "The nights will be ours. No hiding. No pretending. Just us. People will talk. They'll know. Let them wonder. I'm tired of hiding how I feel about you." Joy burst through Jenny's chest.
Yes.
"I'll come." Good. Jae-hyun answered his phone, switching to rapid Korean. Business voice activated. But his free hand found hers, fingers interlacing, making promises of later. Jenny watched him work, marveling at this impossible turn. 12 hours ago, she'd been terrified he'd heard her confession. Now she was planning a trip to Singapore with the man she loved. The man who loved her back. It wasn't simple, wasn't easy. The danger was real, the complications endless. But for the first time in 3 years, Jenny felt truly alive. When Jae-hyun ended the call, he pulled her into his arms. No regrets. None. Even knowing what comes next, the secrecy, the danger, the impossibility of it all. Especially knowing that. Jenny tilted her face up, kissed him softly. I told you last night, I see myself staying. That hasn't changed. Then stay.
Please.
Stay with me. Always. Later, when Jenny finally left his office, appropriately disheveled, professionally composed, she pulled out her phone. A text to her group chat. We need to talk. Emergency girls' night tomorrow. My place. I have news. Maya. Good news or bad news? Jenny. Complicated news. Amazing news. Terrifying news. Chioma. He didn't fire you? Jenny. Definitely didn't fire me. Haewon details.
Now.
Jenny. Tomorrow. In person. Trust me, you'll want to be sitting down for this. She smiled, imagining their reactions. The shock. The concern. The inevitable warnings about danger and power dynamics and impossible situations. But underneath would be happiness. Because her friends loved her enough to support even her most reckless decisions. Her phone buzzed. Jae-hyun. Already missing you. Dinner tonight? My place. Jenny. Is that professional? Jae-hyun. Nothing about us is professional anymore. Say yes. Jenny. Yes. Always yes. She walked out of Biko Group into Seoul's winter morning. The city sparkled around her. Beautiful. Dangerous. Full of impossible possibilities. Somewhere in the city, her life had transformed. From desperation to hope. From hiding to honesty. From longing to having. It wouldn't be easy. Loving Park Jae-hyun meant accepting darkness along with light. Meant choosing danger over safety. Meant trusting a man whose world could destroy her. But looking at her reflection in a passing window, Jenny recognized the woman staring back. Not lost. Not destroyed. Not compromised.
Whole. Alive.
Exactly where she wanted to be. She forgot to hang up, and he finally heard her secret feelings. And somehow, impossibly, miraculously, he felt the same way. That was enough. More than enough. Everything. And that's how a forgotten phone call changed everything. Jenny took a risk 3 years ago when she accepted that job, and tonight, that risk finally paid off. Sometimes the most dangerous choices lead to the most beautiful destinations. If you love this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more Afro-Korean love stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. And tell me in the comments, would you have had the courage to stay like Jenny did, or would you have run? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.